Ladies and gentlemen, I do understand that people have difficulty trying to absorb the things that we talk about on this channel because we advocate for children first, and I know not everybody understands where we're coming from. Because we're talking about things, especially pertaining to children, that are a little bit outside of the scope of what we see as normal. And the things that I say don't sit well with a lot of people's sensibilities. But I promise you guys, we're speaking for children who can't speak for themselves and they cannot defend themselves against what their caretakers are putting them up against. Okay? What I want you guys to do is take a look at something. I want y'all to take a look at these three faces. They're going to be the subject of this particular story. I don't know exactly their level of guilt and involvement, but I do know that the fingers are being pointed at these individuals for causing or participating in a shooting that caused two children to be shot, one of them to pass away. One of those children is dead, which also means that these dudes have no aim. Whatever they were aiming at, they were not hitting at all. All right? This is something I generally talk about a lot out of Chicago, and I'm sorry to keep having to throw Chicago out there, but it does happen a lot in that area. But this story comes out of a place called, where is it at? Nashville, Tennessee. How about that? How about that? I want to tell you guys, it's so funny how we're out here talking about these people that are being shot and killed by the police, and people will say how wrong it is, and I do agree that it shouldn't happen. But why do we put so much of a focus on grown people? What did you say? Provoking these situations. That's the proper word to use. Why do we put so much focus on grown people who are provoking the police in some instances, not all, to escalate these situations? Okay? Now I get it. Y'all can debate that all day long. I'm not here to debate what's right or wrong on that side. But what I am here to do is say that we have a much bigger pandemic that's going on than anything related to what was going on last year with the COVID stuff. The pandemic we have here in America right now is this thing called the Thug Zoo, huh? You guys have heard about this before. We've talked about this before. And some people who are new might ask, well, what is the Thug Zoo? Well, the Thug Zoo is when the parents take their children to go to the Thug Zoo and they see the cute little cuddly thug lion and it wants to go pat the lion, play with the lion, and in some cases, the mothers or caretakers leave their children with those lions, and then the lions end up killing the kids, and then we're like, oh my God, the lion killed my baby. Now, I'm not saying that the mother in this case, that's what she did, but what I am saying is that they're living in a zoo, in a literal zoo, full of these thug lions. Some people aren't able to move out of these situations, I get it. But if you have any ability to get out of high crime areas, I think it's best for your life and your children's life to do as best that you can to try to get out. Otherwise, we're going to just continue to keep having these stories. Metro Police on Tuesday announced multiple arrests in connection to a North Nashville quadruple shooting. A quadruple shooting in Nashville. And I believe that's Nashville, Tennessee. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, just let me know. But this shooting left a toddler dead. A toddler little girl. And I'm going to have her face up here in just a moment. Let me see if I can get that baby up here. This little girl right here. Her name is Jamayla Marlowe. Jamayla Marlowe is 3 years old. She was 3 years old until these thugs robbed her life of her. She was 3 years old, and her half-sister, who was 2 years old, were struck by gunfire. So two children were hit in a vehicle after somebody opened fire, busting guns in a parking lot at a Cumberland View Apartments on Monday night. The girl who survived was shot in the arm, and she's expected to recover. And that's according to the police. Also shot that night, two men identified by police as Nashville residents. Let me see. I don't know who's who, Let me get their picture back up here. I don't know which one of these dudes is which. One's name is Thomas L. Winston Jr., who was 23 years old. DeAndre Dean, who was 26. Both men suffered non-life-threatening injuries, in this incident. Now, as of late Tuesday afternoon, 2 people have been arrested in connection with the case, but none of their charges were related to the firing of any of the fatal shots on Tuesday night, according to police, noting that their investigation continues. So let me back this up. DeAndre Dean is the one on the far right-hand side, and I think the one that they're trying to say actually did shoot the gun that caused this baby's death is the guy in the middle. Okay? Now, the 2 girls were sitting in the car, were in a car caught in the crossfire at about 6:40 p.m. at a public housing complex off 25th Avenue North and Downland Street. Let me move this a little bit closer so I can read this better. The driver of the car, police said, attempted to accelerate away as both children were struck by bullets. Their mother then drove them to General Hospital, where they were transferred to Monroe Carell Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. There, Jamayla died from a gunshot wound to her back. This child was shot in her back. Wow, man, that's sad. Winston also drove to General Hospital in a blue Hyundai Elantra for treatment of a gunshot wound to his abdomen. He was transferred to Vanderbilt University Medical Center and remained hospitalized Tuesday, according to police. Dean was dropped off at Centennial Medical Center with a gunshot wound to his leg. He refused to speak to detectives. But he was released from the hospital and then booked into jail on 6 unrelated outstanding warrants. How do you have that many? How is that even possible to have that many warrants? You just continue to keep doing crime, keep building up warrants, and I guess they don't know how to find him. They don't know where he was at. 6 outstanding warrants, and that's not even including what he might be involved in with this case. So that also includes a parole violation. So he was in jail, got out of jail. Parole violation, failure to appear in court, 2 counts of theft, and 2 counts of domestic assault. And that is Dean. Dean is the dude that was in the orange shirt. So let's see if we can go back. So that's the guy on the far right-hand side. That's the one I just gave the information on. An investigation so far shows that Winston, who is the dude on the left-hand side, that guy with a little smirk on his face, arrived in the housing development in the Hyundai as a large group of people had gathered in the parking lot. Police said he then walked in between the 2 buildings. Shots were then fired from that direction across the parking lot. At least 3 other people shot back. It was then Winston then retreated to the Hyundai, dropped a bloody pistol on the pavement, and then fled the area. As he drove away, one man from the crowd fired multiple shots at the Hyundai. The man who fired shots at the Hyundai was spotted in Cumberland View Tuesday, wearing the same clothes he had on the night before. They noticed that he was wearing the same exact clothes from the night before. Gross. Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you very much. That's very disgusting. He's identified as Anthony L. Sharp, who was the dude that was in that middle picture. Let me see if actually, right there. The dude in the middle. That's Anthony L. Sharp, who's 24 years old, and he was arrested on a charge of felony aggravated assault related to Monday's quadruple shooting. Winston's actions remain unclear. Winston's actions remain under investigation Monday evening, police said. Now, police said he will be arrested when he is discharged from the hospital on outstanding unrelated warrants, charging him with felony aggravated assault and vandalism. And anybody who has information concerning the shooting is urged. We're going to urge these people in Nashville or Nastyville or whatever it is. If you know something, if you saw something, please say something. This type of crap and your kids are going to continue to keep getting shot until y'all stand up. And you know what's crazy about it? They actually make it very easy for y'all to be able to take a stand. You don't have to sit back and continue to watch your neighborhoods get trashed. You can actually call in anonymously. Give tips. Give them the information that's going to lead to the arrest to get these thugs out of your way. Help the police help you. Maybe you don't want to go hands-on with the criminals, so allow the police to do it. Why else would they even be there? Because as soon as something bad happens, who's the first people you call? Certainly not Ghostbusters. You call the police. So if you're going to call them and ask for them to come out, then why not give them the proper information, give them the tools to be able to properly help you? We've been allowing these thugs to continue to slip through the loopholes that are the ones out there killing our kids, kidnapping our kids, and doing all type of heinous things, and we just continue to allow this thing to fester like it's just going to go away. Like maybe it won't be my day today. And I'm going to tell you something. For the mother of this little girl, she probably thought, well, it won't be me today. It ended up being her and the half-sister. It was her day today. Tomorrow might be some of y'all's day if you live out there in that area. Maybe this coming weekend might be your weekend. There's no place safe for you. You can't be in the car. You can't be at the park. You can't be inside your house because people are getting stray bullets flying through their houses. There is no place safe. You have to hold the people who are doing this bullcrap accountable, get them off the streets. And we have to start encouraging a better mindset to not procreate with thugs and have all of these kids outside of wedlock. We have to start having better families. But look, let me go ahead and give you guys the fair usage because I got a lot more that I want to say. Let's get it. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. I'll speak a little bit more after these videos play, but if y'all would, do me a favor and click that thumbs up. It will help share streams like this and let more people know where we're at, okay? So please click that thumbs up. Here we go. Let's get it.
This is a News 2 breaking news alert.
We do want to get right to this breaking news alert. Coming out of North Nashville tonight, we are learning a 3-year-old toddler is dead. 3 other people have been injured after a shooting at 25th and Gallen Street north of downtown. Welcome to News 2 at 10. I'm Bob Mueller.
And I'm Haley Wilgus. Let's get right to News 2's Valencia Wicker. She is joining us live in North Nashville tonight from the scene of that deadly shooting. Valencia.
Yeah, good evening. Just moments ago, we received a very emotional update from Metro Nashville Police. They telling us that 3-year-old little girl has died in tonight's shooting. Not only that, but her 2-year-old half-sister was also wounded. We'll show you video of what the scene looked like just moments ago. We are told that shooting happened around 6:40. It was between multiple people. At that time, we understand that the children were inside of a vehicle or a car nearby and were somehow caught in the gunfire. We are told that they had nothing to do with exactly what happened here tonight. Now, we are also told that there were 2 men who were also wounded in this shooting, a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old. We are told that 26-year-old had an injury to the groin. We are told they are both expected to be okay. At this point, investigators are still trying to piece together exactly what went on. We do know that there was a large crowd of people here tonight when this shooting occurred. Of course, officers are telling us that crowd of people just dispersed at the time of the shooting in what various ways. They are pleading and asking anyone who saw or knows anything about the shooting to, of course, come forward in the midst of this investigation. We are told that there are cameras, but at this point, they are trying to review those surveillance cameras right now. They have had limited access to those. Now, I can also tell you that the public information officer, rather, for the Metro Nashville Police, he said very, very emotionally, you know, this is something that Nashville should not stand for. It is one of the rare times that I actually saw quite a bit of emotion from him. Of course, this showing exactly how this is impacting the officers here at the scene. Of course, we will keep you updated on air and online as we learn more information. From North Nashville, Valencia Wicker, News 2.
Valencia, I know you're learning more information. I know we just heard from Don Aaron. Do they believe this particular group of people was targeted by these people? Do they have any idea of number of suspects they're looking for?
Yeah, you know, at this point, they do not. They, in fact, Don Aaron said to us they are looking to find out any clues that they can, trying to piece together exactly why this shooting occurred. They do know that a very large amount of people were here. We are told that we did hear from neighbors who said that there was a gathering, an event of some sort happening in the parking lot to my right. At this point, police could not confirm exactly what that event was, but of course they are trying to piece together exactly what happened in this investigation. We are told that there were some 200 people here, and that's coming from neighbors, not from police. But of course, we have asked those questions. We are expected to get another update later on this evening. Bob.
Valencia, we are hearing it was possibly a vigil for another crime victim. We can find that out later. And a 3-year-old has died, and as you said, a 2-year-old toddler also injured. Do we know the ages of the other people injured and how serious those injuries are?
Actually, Bob, I couldn't quite hear your question, but I think you were asking how serious those injuries are. I can tell you that the 2-year-old...
I'm going to try to let these videos play out, and I'm not going to do too much talking through these videos. So I'm going to try to let them play so you can kind of get a little bit more of a broad understanding about what's really going on before I give my closing thoughts.
Who was the half-sister of the little girl who was killed in this shooting. We are told that she had a wound to her arm, or the upper part of her body. The two gentlemen, which is a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old, we are told that they also had injuries to their extremities, but we are told they are expected to be okay. Again, at this point, I can tell you that we did ask if those victims were connected somehow, if the little girls were related to the gentleman, and at this point they say they don't know, but all indication says that they were not related, that these are 4 victims who were truly caught in the midst of gunfire between 2 large groups of people.
Valencia Wicker in North Nashville. Thank you, Valencia. Police will update us on this situation again as the investigation continues. We will have the latest information starting on Good Morning Nashville at 4 a.m.
I'm tracking crime where you live now, and Metro Police are investigating a deadly shooting in North Nashville that left a 3-year-old dead. Officials say multiple people were involved in a shootout in a parking lot near 25th Avenue North and Dowland Street around 6:30 yesterday evening. Julie Blasio joins us live from Metro's North Precinct, where she's following that investigation.
This tragedy is not only affecting the families of the victims in the community, but also the Metro police officers who responded to this crime scene. The department saying that Nashville should not stand for this and something needs to be done about this. This happening around 6:30 in the evening last night. Let's take a look at some video of that investigation of what the scene looked like. And according to neighbors and people that were in the area at the time, around 200 people were together because they were honoring the life of Cleveland Shaw Jr., the man killed in a separate shooting last week on Clarksville Pike. Last night, multiple people started firing shots. A 3-year-old girl was killed. A 2-year-old girl was injured. 2 men were also found shot, a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old. Their injuries were non-life threatening. Investigators do not know if the 2 men and the 2 young girls were related, but we do know that the 2 children are half-sisters, and they were sitting inside of a car, tragically caught in the crossfire.
Anytime gunfire hits a child, something's wrong, and something is wrong here. And we'll be trying to ask for the community's cooperation to help us identify the persons responsible. There's more than one. There were multiple people here, and obviously the crowd scattered when all the gunfire occurred.
And there were surveillance cameras in the area, so police are trying to take a look at the footage from some of those cameras. We don't know how many, but we're continuing to try to get updates from Metro Police on this. But as you just heard Don Aaron say, that multiple people were in the area, so they're hoping that somebody comes forward with information about who is responsible for this. And you can remain anonymous if you do have information, and call Nashville Crime Stoppers. The number is 615-74-CRIME. Reporting live in North Nashville, Julia Palazzo, News 2.
That breaking news, a 3-year-old has been killed and 3 others hurt, including a 2-year-old, at a memorial honoring the victim of a shooting. We do know these children were half-sisters. News Channel 5's Kelsey Gibbs is joining us live from near the scene along 25th Avenue North and Dahlin Street. Kelsey, this is so tragic and so needless.
Carrie, it's definitely, what we would call a senseless shooting, to hear of, 2 children under the age of 3 who were shot, just innocent victims of this crime. We do know, again, a 3-year-old was fatally shot. A 2-year-old was shot in the arm. They were inside of a car when the gunfire erupted. Now, we're hearing that the 2-year-old that was shot in the arm appears not to have life-threatening injuries. 2 adults also shot near the car, also no life-threatening injuries. We know that police were called here around 6:40 this evening. Officers tell us when the 4 people were shot, by the time they got to the scene, they were already on their way to the hospital. And neighbors telling us off camera, they were celebrating and honoring the life.
Hey guys, something's going on with my audio. So if you're having issues, if it's too loud, let me know and I'll try to adjust the volume. I'm sorry, but something's wrong with my system and some of my volume levels are a little bit off. So I'm sorry if it's too loud and get some of y'all ears. So I'll try to adjust it.
Of Cleveland Shaw Jr., who was shot and killed not too far from here last week. Now, several people were out here to remember Shaw, and one neighbor says several cars came up and they just started shooting. Again, we do know that 4 people were shot, 2 children under the age of 3. We know that the 3-year-old girl has been, unfortunately, she has died from her injuries. The 2-year-old shot in the arm and is expected to survive. Police calling this a sad day for Nashville. They say anytime you have, a shooting that involves the children, it makes for a bad day. So unfortunately, this is still a developing story. No suspects at this time. There was tons of witnesses out here. Police are hoping that if anyone has seen anything, heard anything, to please contact police. Do this for these families. But for now, reporting live in North Nashville, Kelsey Gibbs, News Channel.
It's time to wake up. Stop the violence. Stop the violence.
It's a desperate plea from an already mourning family.
I'm tired. You all should be tired. Aren't you tired yet? How many more do we have to kill? How many more?
Last week, it was Shima Reed's godson, 29-year-old Cleveland Shaw, who was shot and killed just down the street. Last night at Cumberland View Apartments, the sound all too familiar as gun violence struck yet again. Dozens of shots were fired.
It was so many. It was so many. It sounded like we were at war. It sounded like a war zone.
Police confirming 3-year-old Jamayla Marlowe was killed in the Crossfire. Her half-sister, 2-year-old Antion Butler, also struck, along with 2 men.
It turns my stomach. My stomach is in knots. How cemeteries are running over with our young children.
Ms. Shima says the housing complex needs to be gated so the children that live there can have a future.
This is a battleground. They have made Cumberland View homes a battleground. So many have lost their lives over here. So many are bringing trouble over here. Violence is not the answer. Revenge is not the answer. Violence is not the answer. We got children out here. You're going after one person, but you're shooting at everybody. Why?
And I'm going to tell you guys, as unique, I'm going to call it unique, because I don't want to be disrespectful. As unique as the way that she's saying what she's saying, she's absolutely right. She is absolutely right. I want y'all to hear what she's saying, and we're going to talk about everything that she's saying here in just a moment.
Over here, violence is not the answer. Revenge is not the answer. Violence is not the answer. We got children out here. You're going after one person, but you're shooting at everybody. Why? Why? Don't you want your children to grow and have a future? So do us.
She questions, where are the morals, values, and respect, saying prayer is all that's left.
The way we living, the things we doing, it's killing us. It's taking our future away. Where's the love? Where's the love?
Reporting from North Nashville, Stephanie Langston, News 2.
And I feel where she's coming from, but we also have to look at root cause. How do we even get here? We'll talk about that. I got 2 more videos I want to play for you guys, and then I'll give y'all my honest opinion about all of that, okay?
And we just got more breaking news into our newsroom. These 2 men are under investigation for their involvement in last night's shooting that killed 3-year-old Jamayla Marlowe. They are not charged in her death, however. Thomas Winston is accused of shooting into a crowd at the Cumberland View housing development. Anthony Sharp is accused of shooting back. Sharp was arrested for felony aggravated assault. Winston was shot and is still in the hospital. He will be charged once released from the hospital. 3-year-old Jamayla's family is mourning her loss after police say she was caught in the crossfire of that shooting. News 4's Marissa Sulik talked exclusively with the family today. And Marissa, you learned this family was heading to a vigil for another gunshot victim.
Yeah, that's right, Marius. Jamayla's mom tells us that she had just parked her car at the Cumberland View housing complex, which is just beyond the North Police Precinct here, when a stream of bullets hit them. Now, they were heading to another vigil last night for another gunshot victim who passed away, who was shot and killed, that is, in the same area last week. And now they're remembering their own, and that's Jamayla Marlowe.
But she had her own personality.
That's how friends and family here remember Jamayla Marlowe, a 3-year-old girl who loved to give others a compliment.
I like your nails.
Oh,
your
one day
nails.
my hair was all over my head, but she made me like the most prettiest woman in the world.
Everything changed last night. Everything changed last night.
And
that's the mom. This is mom right here. So I'll let you guys listen to a little bit about what she has to say.
Etta Marlowe says her daughter was in her car last night when they got to the Cumberland View housing complex for a vigil.
Me and my kids had literally just pulled up and backed in a parking spot when the shots rang off, so.
Both Jamayla and 2-year-old Antonia were in the back seat when bullets were fired. One hit and killed Jamayla.
My baby was shot through her back. She had a personality out of this world. She was, to know her was to love her, and that was a child to die for. I would have took that bullet for my baby.
I prayed last night. I can't really think about it without tearing up, but it hurts still to this day to think. And I don't know this kid, but it hurts that this happened. And
that's Metro Police Chief John Drake, visibly shaken by the death of 3-year-old Jamayla Marlowe last night.
Her shooting death was breaking news last night on News 4 at 10. Her 2-year-old half-sister was hurt, and so we're 2 adults. It's left that community shaken.
Tonight, several people are in jail as the investigation continues. So far, though, only 24-year-old Anthony Sharp is charged in this case. But police say they are following strong leads to figure out what happened. Jamayla's family says she was in a car caught in the crossfire of a shootout.
My baby was shot through her back. She had a personality out of this world. She was, to know her was to love her, and that was a child to die for. I would have took that bullet for my baby. I would have took that bullet for my baby.
It's hard to watch. Tonight, our family wants an end to all the violence. New at 10 o'clock, they're not the only ones.
I met Chief Drake at police headquarters this afternoon to talk about the state of policing after more gun violence over the last few days and calls for protests around the country. But he told me first and foremost today, he wants to see our community stand up together and fight for our families, for our children, and against the rampant violence we continue to see.
we're losing in 2 ways. When we have the victim, we've lost. But then when we make the big arrest of the suspect, we've lost again. And so we're losing.
And that's something I've talked about a lot. And I'm going to back this up and I'm going to let y'all hear what he said again. Let me let y'all hear this one more time.
Stand up together and fight for our...
And I do feel my phone vibrating. I'm going to shout those out here in just a minute. So thank y'all very much. I do feel my phone vibrating. I want y'all to listen to what he has to say. Listen at this.
Families, for our children, and against the rampant violence we continue to see.
We're losing in two ways. When we have the victim, we've lost. But then when we make the big arrest of the suspect, we've lost again.
What I'm going to say, which is something he can't say, is this. Our people who look just like us, who share our skin color, the black community, we are becoming our own worst enemy, or maybe we already are. We are our own worst enemy. So we're harming the children, harming each other, and going to jail behind harming each other. So we're taking each other out at an astronomical rate, and nobody's really addressing this horrible trend except for a small few people. But for the most part, it seems to go way under the radar. We continue to keep worrying about these police situations that have happened, which are bad. They're very bad. They look bad. We got video and all of that stuff. It's bad for sure. But we got way more situations just like this one.
And so we're losing in our community, and we need to do more about it. And I think that's what we need to be marching about also. That we need to be upset about.
Let's back that up. I love what he just said, because that's actually what I'm about to address.
When we have the victim, we've lost. But then when we make the big arrest of the suspect, we've lost again.
Listen at this part right here. Listen at this part.
And so we're losing in our community, and we need to do more about it. And I think that's what we need to be marching about also. That we need to be upset about this as well.
We need to be upset about this as well. Can somebody write that in the chat? Thug is not a color, it's an action. Thank you. I like it when y'all use, thank you so much. Thug is not a color, it's an action. He said, we need to be upset about this as well. As well. We need to be upset about this as well. Can somebody type that in the chat? Even if it's just one person. We need to be upset about this as well. Because the problem is we care too much about these other situations. And then situations like this, we don't care about at all. We don't talk about at all. We don't feature this at all. We're not having these discussions at all. We're not marching about this at all. I'm going to pause on my thoughts on that. I'm going to come back to it. Let me let this brother finish what he's saying.
No one's marching up and down the street saying, this three-year-old life mattered. There's no one marching saying, I'm tired of 3-year-olds being killed. You may see someone if they think a police officer did something. But no one's out there marching saying, this has to stop. This is what we want to stop. And when we look at our homicides, about 81% of our homicides are minorities. That's our second pandemic. But there's no outcry for that.
Chief Drake says community engagement between police and the community is much better, but right now, kids are stealing cars and guns from cars in record numbers. Kids, and it is up to individual families, he says, to intervene and ask police for help.
I couldn't imagine living in a community with these things going on and saying, this is none of my business. I'm not going to call. I'm not going to report it. I mean, it takes all of us to stop it. And it takes a movement. It's going to take all of us saying, yes, I know you're involved. You're coming home. I'm calling your uncle. I'm calling somebody, but we're going to help. We're going to work together to get this done.
Chief Drake says he wants police to work with families, clergy, and the criminal justice system to make this not only a safer city, but to be the benchmark and model for others.
New developments as we learn arrests have been made after a 3-year-old was killed and 3 others hurt at a memorial honoring the victim of another shooting. It happened a block away from the North Nashville Police Precinct, which is where we find our Sina Sleen.
Sina, a toddler was also hurt in this shooting, and tonight you're learning more about the victims.
That's right, Carrie. How incredibly sad is this for the North Nashville community? As you mentioned, they were here in this parking lot to remember another shooting victim when gunfires erupted. Here's the latest information. Police tell us the
Now, this is the part I want y'all to listen to. This shooting was probably a retaliatory strike because of the life that they're getting ready to talk about here. Listen to this.
Shooting happened at 6:40 Monday.
So another black person that got shot, which caused more black people to shoot each other. Think about that.
Monday night at the Cumberland View Apartments in North Nashville. Police say altogether 4 people were shot. 26-year-old DeAndre Dean, 23-year-old Thomas Winston Jr., and half-sisters 3-year-old Jamayla Marlowe and 2-year-old Antonia Butler. The toddlers were inside a car when the 3-year-old was killed. The 2-year-old was shot in the arm but expected to survive. Police say soon after Winston arrived at the public housing development, the shootout erupted. Police say today they arrested 24-year-old Anthony Sharp on a felony aggravated assault charge after they spotted him at Cumberland View Apartments today wearing the same clothes.
Anytime gunfire hits a child, something's wrong. And something is wrong here. And we'll be trying to ask for the community's cooperation to help us identify the persons responsible. There's more than one. There were multiple people here.
DeAndre Dean was also arrested on 6 unrelated outstanding warrants. Thomas Winston remains under investigation for his role in this shooting. He will be arrested once discharged from the hospital on an outstanding unrelated warrant, charging him with felony aggravated assault as well as vandalism. Now, these were terrifying moments for people in the parking lot because, as we said earlier, they were actually honoring and remembering the life of Cleveland Shaw Jr. He was shot and killed last week.
So that's probably where that sparked from what she just said. Let me back it up. Let me let y'all hear that one more time.
They were actually honoring and remembering the life of Cleveland Shaw Jr. He was shot and killed last week.
Probably by another black person. Let's hear that one more time. So they were headed over to this area, this mom and the kids, and this is why, ooh, it sucks. Because I always wonder why a lot of situations, why any parent will leave their kids and drop their kids off if they're going to a vigil. But this might have been a situation where if mom would have actually gotten a babysitter, then maybe, you know, this little girl might not have had this happen to her. But it's like, you can't win for losing. If you just live in a bad area, it just seems like bad stuff continues to happen. So they were going over here, I believe, to honor the life of a person that passed away and more violence broke out. So a black person kills a black person and then turn around a week later, more black people kill more black people. But if any of y'all are from the hood, like I've been around the hood, then y'all know that this is very commonplace. Retaliation, 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 and it never stops. That's so damn stupid.
Shooting. He will be arrested once discharged from the hospital on an outstanding unrelated warrant, charging him with felony aggravated assault as well as vandalism. Now, these were terrifying moments for people in the parking lot because, as we said earlier, they were actually honoring and remembering the life of Cleveland Shaw Jr. He was shot and killed last week. We're live in North Nashville. Sina Saleem, News Channel 5.
Let me say this as I give my closing thoughts, and thank you for those who were able to use some of our hashtags because I think they're very helpful, especially in a situation like this. One of them being hashtag if you see something, say something. We need to be upset at this as well, just like the officer said. Why are we not out there marching and protesting about this? Why is nobody upset about this? Why is nobody putting this on National Front Street? Why is not everybody putting this baby's picture up there? Huh? You guys see that they put, what is that dude's name? Dante Wright. Do y'all know who Dante Wright is? They put Dante Wright's picture out there and they're sharing that everywhere. Oh, that is a freaking outrage. And I think that there should absolutely be consequences for that young adult losing his life. Absolutely. But let me ask you guys a question. I'm going to reel this back in and give y'all my closing thoughts. When we talk about we should be upset about this too. I'm going to name some of these names and I want y'all to tell me what all of these individuals have in common? The answer is going to be a lot simpler than you think. So let me see if y'all catch this. I'm going to name some names. Dante Wright, Ahmaud Arbery, Alton Sterling, Walter L. Scott, Rayshard Brooks, Breonna Taylor, George Perry Floyd, Stephon Clark. And y'all might remember that name because that was actually a story that we actually got a lot of traction off of Stevante Clark out of California, that boy. Anyway, but nonetheless, out of those names and those people that I just mentioned, what do they all have in common? And remember, the answer is a hell of a lot more simpler than you think. What do they all have in common? The answer is a lot more simple than you think. I'll give you guys a moment. I'm going somewhere with this, and it has everything to do with that baby right there. So I want y'all to think about what's the difference between those black people that I just named and that baby. What's the correlation between, thank you, Robin got it. Look at what Robin in the chat wrote. Robin got it. Thank you. I told y'all the answer is a lot simpler than you think. Look at what Robin wrote in the chat, and I want y'all to write that. Thank you, Mookie Lolo. They were all adults. They had an opportunity to grow up and become something great. They got a chance to live life. And a lot of them were actually old enough that they had an opportunity to create kids. They had an opportunity to be parents. They had an opportunity to do a lot of things before their lives were tragically cut down. And I'm saying that they were tragically cut down because they should not have been cut down, especially in the fashion that they were. But what I'm saying to you is that they were grown. What I'm also saying to you is that what about these babies? Huh? While we are so quick to mention those names, I want y'all to remember such and such and such and such. That little girl was 3 years old. What about say her name? What about Jamayla Marlowe? Can we say her name? Jamaylah. Jamayla. It's spelled J-A and then May-La. Jamayla. Jamayla Marlowe. Can we say her name? They talk about Breonna Taylor. Say her name. They talking about Ahmaud Arbery. Say his name. They talk about Dante Wright. Say his name. What about Jamayla? What about Jamayla Marlowe? Can we say her name? Or did her life not matter as much as grown adults? Just like the officer said, he worded it perfectly. He said, we should be marching about this also. That is not to discount what those other people went through and their struggle and what they're fighting for in order to stop police violence and all of that stuff. What we're saying is there's something that is being grossly overlooked. And matter of fact, this is making me a little bit upset, and I'm trying to calm myself down. And y'all know I get very worked up with these stories because I believe babies' lives matter, and I believe that those who are listening in the chat right now, even if we don't have very many people, there's still people here listening. And I believe all of y'all believe that babies' lives matter as well. Let me make this baby's picture bigger. I'm going to make her picture just a little bit bigger. And I want y'all to look at this angel. Y'all look at this precious individual and y'all tell me, what was so insignificant about this baby that nobody cared about what happened to her? Nobody marched for her. Nobody protested for her. Nobody cussed and fussed about the loss of her life. And it brings me to a very, very scary thought. And it makes me wonder, is it because somebody who looked just like her caused her death? Is that why? I'm just asking a question. Is that the reason why we can't say Jamayla Marlowe's name? Is that why we're not going to make her loss of life just as public? Because if you ask me, this baby's life should matter, and her death should matter more than someone who lost their life at the hands of the police. Because the police in those situations couldn't relate to those people, probably didn't care about those people, and were trained to handle those situations in a certain way, which could be very dangerous for both sides. But what about the people that look like her? Probably could have shared the same DNA, could have been cousins, probably were family members, probably grew up around those same people, probably went to school together. They have a hell of a lot in common. The people that caused this baby's death have a lot in common. And you would think that it would be a lot more egregious, that we shouldn't do this to ourselves. And I don't see people getting outraged. I see couple of people here and there on social media. They'd be like, look guys, we got to stop doing this to ourselves. And you know what's funny? Is I notice how those same people who do have a voice, people that got restaurants, people that got businesses and stuff like that, they try to come out and finally say something, and guess who tries to shut them down? Y'all want to take a guess? Who's the first person to tell people like that, who step out on a limb, who represent the children, who realize something is wrong? Who are the first people to say, use a coon, use tap dancing, you must have a white wife, you must be gay? Who's the first person to tell you something like that? To say something to you that's disparaging about you, calling out something that is clearly messed up, that's clearly wrong? Who the first people? Is it the same people that y'all are saying oppressed us? The same people that had us in slavery? Huh? The same people that won't give us the same opportunities in life, that own the businesses that won't give us jobs? They took our jobs. Is it those people? Is it the left? Is it the right? Is it the up? Is it the down? Is it the Dem? Is it the Reebs? The Republics? The Republicans? Is it the upper class? The elite? Is it the Illuminati? Who is it? Oh, that's right. I forgot. It's people that look just like us who say the worst things to each other to hold us back from putting out the correct message. Now, why is that? Because I'm going to tell you guys, everything starts with choice. You guys have watched The Matrix, right? If you haven't watched The Matrix, watch all 3 of them. Hell, watch even the Animatrix. Watch all 4. It's good stuff. Because even me, I was able to take something from that movie, even though I enjoyed the action, but I was able to learn from it. And everything starts with what? Choice. Everything starts with choice. The problem is choice. This baby is dead because of what? Choice. Somebody chose to have a goddamn attitude. Somebody chose to load up their weapon. Somebody chose to be disrespectful. Somebody chose to jump into a firefight. Somebody chose to unload the clip, aka magazine. Somebody chose to be reckless. People chose to do this around family and friends, cousins, brothers, sisters, and kids. Choice. They chose. So how are we going to point the finger at any freaking body else? Why are we looking anywhere else? We're pointing the finger, oh, it's because of, no, it's because of us. Us. This ain't a me thing, it's a we thing. It's an us thing. The people who are your neighbors, the people who live in your city. The problem is us. And until we start to hold us accountable, this is going to continue to happen. Jamayla's life is going to continue to be insignificant because people don't think it's important enough to stop the bull crap. Just because somebody disrespects you don't mean that you need to react. Don't mean you can't walk away. Don't mean that you can't get out of the life. All of this stuff can stop immediately. If you do what? Choose. All the violence and death and bullcrap can stop if you choose to. And I'm asking and begging people to think about these children first. And the reason I brought those names up again as a reminder is to show you guys they were all adults. This is a child that could not speak for herself, nor could she defend herself against the tyranny of her own community and people that look just like her. If those people were walking down the sidewalk, that baby probably wouldn't think anything different because she's just like, hey, they look just like me. They're out here just like me. Next thing you know, bullets start flying. And we can only blame ourselves. We should be protesting about this also. There's not one march. There's not one community outrage. There's nothing. I saw one person that was in tears. You saw nobody else around that woman. In that news video I showed, you saw nobody else out there with her. Nobody there to console her. Nobody there to stand in solidarity with her. And I think that is indicative. That is indicative of where our mindset is. And I feel like we can get better. We can do better. I've seen where we have done better. Like when we had situations like with those children being murdered out there in Houston, Texas. The two Malias, not even one, but two of them. Y'all remember that? Do y'all see how people banded together about those boys who are missing currently? The Orrin and Orson boys in California? Hashtag where are the boys? See how people banded together for that? I've watched some of the biggest live streams on those stories because people care. But I wonder, why didn't this baby's life matter just as much? That's all I'm saying. And I hope people listen with an open mind and an open heart. And I hope to see more change. I see people in the chat are changing. I see people are constantly putting their stories in the chat and my comment section. They're emailing me. But if I'm going to tell you guys, if you ever want to make a difference and share your story, the best place to share it is in the comment section and the live chat so other people can see it. Other people can feel it. They can think it. Put it in their mind. It will come to their heart. If it's in your mind, it'll go to your heart. Share your stories about how what we're doing is making a difference for these kids. We are saving lives, but every day we're losing more. And I don't want to lose this war. I want to continue to keep fighting these battles and hope that we can win this war. And I'm sorry for being long-winded. Thank you guys so much for listening with an open mind and an open heart. And let me say to that angel, because that's where my focus is. To Jamayla Marlowe, young princess, R.I.P.